Hi, Sarah.
Hi,
Can you
Katie.
introduce us to these two cuties? It looks like they're snuggled up like almost one bird there.
They are, look at them being two little peas in a pod. On the right is Raclette, the zebra finch, and on the left is Bonnie, who is kind of a hybrid, little bit part society finch, part zebra finch, I think, looking at her.
Ah, as a reminder to our audience, type any questions you have about Raclette and Bonnie in the Q&A or in the video live feed on Facebook. I'm guessing from the name Bonnie that Bonnie's a girl. How about Raclette?
Raclette is also a girl. You can tell she doesn't have the little red cheeks that a zebra finch has if it's a boy. So these are two ladies. Yep.
Do we have any idea how old they are?
We do. Bonnie is 4. We're pretty confident about that because she was surrendered from an owner who had a pretty detailed history on her. And then Raclette, we are guessing, is somewhere around about 3 or 4, probably a similar age. She came in with a group of other finches. There was a flock of, I think it was 16 or 17 finches that we were asked to rescue out of an aviary down in the South Bay. And so she came in with them. She had some health problems, so she ended up having to be treated for quite some time, which is why she's not still with them. That flock, we did manage to keep them all together, but she missed her bus. There was a transport arranged for their adopter, and unfortunately she just she wasn't fully recovered from her health problems at the time, so we went on a quest to find her a new friend. And when Bonnie came in, that was kind of perfect. And after quarantine, we were able to unite these two, and as you can see, they're getting along pretty well.
They sure are. They look like they're really just like, I can hardly see that there's two birds there.
Yeah. Hopefully at some point one of them will move. Bonnie just tucked her head back like she's taking a nap right now.
She's having a nap.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'm not in the same room as the cage for sound reasons, because I have other foster birds and you wouldn't be able to hear me. Otherwise I would try and give them a little nudge to show us about their acrobatics. They are, ironically, I'm about to say, they're very active birds.
Well, I can see they have lots of little things to do in different stations in there. Can you just maybe walk us through what's in their cage and how they spend their time when they're not napping?
Yeah, they're usually hopping back and forth from side to side a lot. This cage is 30 inches wide, and that's really the absolute minimum. And ideally, their permanent home would get an even bigger cage. This is the minimum we consider having them in. And from our perspective, they've been on a journey since we took them in to find a friend for them, because they came in as singles. They ended up as singles, and so I'm kind of a way station foster, if you like. I'm not the planned long-term foster. If they don't get adopted soon, we're trying to move them to a foster that could spend more time focused on them. And so they would benefit from a cage that was even wider, because they do fly a lot. So they're usually going straight from one end. That's why there's romaine at both ends of the cage, because they do like to go back and forth and kind of munch on it, and up onto the higher perch, and then onto the swing, and back down to maybe a water dish, and then back up to the top right again. They just hop around a lot of the day. This is, I guess they're having a late siesta, but if we're lucky, they'll start moving before we end our slot here. They really love greens, so that's why I put it in different locations around the cage, so that they've got more points of interest to go and visit as they're hopping around. So they've got some cilantro on that's a shelf perch at the back. So they have a ladder, they have a rope perch, they got the swings, and then they have this shelf perch at the back. Another thing I highlight is, again, because I don't consider this a long-term foster setup for them, natural shaped perches would be best. There's a couple of dowel rods in here, which again is me just grabbing my emergency resources when I'm suddenly asked to take in a finch. So we have some more natural shaped perches in here. It would be a nice upgrade too. And so they jump around between each of the dishes. There's 2 food dishes and 3 water dishes, just because finches do like to jump in the shallow dish and take a bath. So the water dish that you can see that's a little bigger on the right is really a bathing dish, and sometimes I'll put like celery leaves or something mixed in the water there so that they can kind of they can bathe and dine at the same time. And they really like splashing around a lot, so that's their bath, and then they've got 2 water dishes separately.
Got it. And a reminder for all the audience, you can ask questions in the Q&A and in the Facebook live stream. So I think we already really covered how they came to Mickaboo, and it just illustrates the wide variety of different situations that birds come from, one from an owner and one from a large aviary surrender. What do they like to eat besides the leafy greens? It looks like that must be something they're a fan of just by the quantity, but what else? Do they eat seeds or pellets?
Yeah, finches just it's good to actually, great point. It's good to call out that they should have seed. I know we often in the Mickaboo bird care class we talk a lot about how seed should be considered a treat and they should be converted to pellets in most species, but when it comes to finches, they do eat a lot of seeds and grains, and so in their dishes, I think it's probably about 60% Volkmann's seed mix for finches and canaries. And then I also have Lefebvre's finch crumbles in there too. So they have a little, I put about a tablespoon in one side of the dish so that they can pick away at that. And by the end of the day, it's all mixed up and they forage around and pick out what they want from it. So hopefully they're eating some of it and not just throwing it all around. So yeah, they shouldn't be meal fed either. I know we advocate for meal feeding for most parrot species too, but finches are so tiny and their metabolism so high that they should have food available all throughout the day.
Well, and they are not parrots. That's
they're not parrots.
A good reminder for all of us.
They're not hookbills. Yeah, absolutely.
We are a companion bird rescue, not just
we have quite a few canaries and finches that are looking for homes as well.
We do have an audience question now. Are they okay with children?
If they were willing to be very patient with them, I could see, if you're able to put your hand in the cage with some seed in it and just sit there still, if you can sit still for 5 minutes, they might learn over time to come down and eat out of a hand. Finches can certainly learn to do that. These ones, they were recently put together. I would hope I do a lot of sort of emergency landing spot fostering, so I unfortunately have a little bit too many foster birds to be able to do training with every single one of them. So we're really hoping to move them to a foster that will be able to work on socializing them. But it certainly is possible. I would say that it would be a case of setting expectations. They're not going to fly out of the cage and land on your shoulder. And I wouldn't let them out in a space unless you were very confident that you would not need to get them back in the cage in an emergency, because it's not very easy to catch a finch. That's why we
similar to what we just talked about with Ruth the budgie.
Yeah, indeed. So you really want to have a space where they could be out all day and they would eventually go back in for food, but you're not going to easily be able to tell them where they need to go and when. So definitely bear that in mind. But it's a nice option if you have kids who are interested in working on getting them hand friendly so they'll fly down and eat from your hand. You just need to do it consistently every day for a little bit, and the trick is just to be as still as you can. So no excited movements, no constantly fidgeting your hand around. It's got to be really still so that they'll be brave enough to come and try the food out of it. Yeah, it's a lot for the birds to learn how to be friends with us, just like we're learning. It takes a little while, but once they work it out and they know that your hand means food is coming, they can be quite excited about it. Yeah, definite possibility there. So we are about ready to move on to meet Emma the cockatoo. But before we do that, are there any last things you'd like to tell us about Bonnie and Raclette? Just that this is the most I've seen them sit still all day in quite some time. I promise you, they fly around so much. They have been laying eggs recently, and I think that's just because having been paired up, they're so happy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not as worried about that with finches compared to parrots, because it's they would lay more regularly or frequently in the wild anyway. So it's not so much of a problem, but we will be watching just to make sure, and as long as they're getting food that's well balanced and has the right nutrition, we're not overly concerned about it. But there has been a little, I think it's Raclette. I don't know exactly which one it is. I don't think they're both doing it, given how I'm seeing them. They usually come a couple at a time, then there'll be a break and then another couple. I think it's Raclette.
Stealth eggs.
Yeah.
One last question from Facebook. How do they take their baths?
They jump in that little shallow dish down there. So that little white porcelain dish, the slightly whiter one that you can see on the right hand side. They will jump in the other water dishes too, but that one's a little whiter, so they can really splash around and put their wings out.
Got it.
I asked my husband to go down and just kind of make some gestures and see if you could get them moving, and they're still resolutely
not impressed.
They are camped out. They are.
We will leave them in peace and go and meet Emma now. Thank you, Sarah.
I'm sorry they're on strike today. Thanks, Katie. Well, I just chat with them. They do respond to humans making finch beeping sounds. So if you want to practice speaking finch, you can go beep, beep, beep at them, and you'll get a little chorus of beep, beep, beeps back, which is incredibly cute. So they're not hand tame, but they like to speak. They like to speak human finch with you. So you can have conversations with them, and I think they would get friendly with hands if you were to just be consistent every day and spend a little time with them.